فيري وحلان هاي إريجا ألب جد جهاد فلان بحال أنت صوتبعي وأصل معنا مركز وحان قاعدني هلك عربي ها طبعي ها مركز وحي ألب جار كأيه إنها أوتيستيكا أبكودا قبل إنكار أوجد لقى تحليه أوجد لقى تحلوه وقوش شقكم عليه إنها أوتيستيكا أبكودا قبل إنكار أوجد لقى تحليه وقوش شقكم عليه ووها أسكت لنا قبل نوفيستن جبتو عن الأوتيستيك قبل هيتري وهيتري أنا وها واي سلو لنا normal kid in other world وهيتري أنا يا إحراري اللي لا يوسو استكتي ورعانو كان نبكى قبا أنا قال أقول رفعت سنة حبارك كلا ضغط انتوبة معنا واحد كلا أدينيسا على مقارك إيه إنها أوتيستيكا إني لا إلاليو آدي لو فهمو لا أجي مدينين مركو حدا نقول ترى أسلك عنا بكسوغا واحد استنبال إذا أسلك عنا وحلا أربعة كأيو إلمها أوتيستيكا إني لا إلاليو آدي لو فهمو لا أجي مدينين آدي كله وحلاها دانو إرجع فهمو إنها أوتيستيكا آدي وفهمو ونحرستو وترى آدي كله وحلاها تلال من هنا دعيو إليك ويان إربدا إلمها للبيك صدي أو يلقى شيء جيان أوتيستيكا كماله إلمها أوتيستيكا آدي وفهمو وفهمو محلي آدي ونحرستو وترى آدي كله وحلها إسلام بالغتغو الله نعقابي إسلام بالغتغو الله نعقابي
meel fiican buu dhigay laakiin yaa ka sii qaadaya weli marka madadaalada yaa ka sii qaadaya buurtuu saaray faarax murtile
عليكم السلام وبركاته لما أنت سلاخ الكدوتة تذكر مدحضة كسوي يبي فرحانتي لفت اللبين بيلي هاي تذكر اللبين بولي هاي عانه اللبين بيليهين عانه اللبين توحوا السوق قوا ويقعدوا لفت اللبين بيلي أبحوا تذكر اللبين بيليهين والرياضة مركز إمريكا ألكم حيسوق تمي اللبين تي وأقومتي ومتى وهاي تذكر الكسكة ayaa waxyaabahan daneeya dadka caadiga dadka muxuu ahaa cabqariinta dadka ummadda madaxda ah minjuhu ma yimaadaan minjuhu bariisiba iska daban doontaa meelaha laga ciyaarayay laakiin dadka caadiga ee wax fahmaya meelaha kama yimaada saa awgeed dadka meesha yimaada dadka madaxda ah ummadda hogaamin lahaa aadee loo mahadsantihiin thank you very much dadka jooga agaheena aqalkiiyo rugta eeliyo agaarka gurigeenna ee awoodda aan haysan waa in loo arxamo weeye waan ereg xun loo quudhin aflagaada loo geysan rabbaa inagu eegaya waa in loo arxamo weeye mid kalena ogaado ootiism ha ka odhan ummaddii wacnaydundhe mid kale ogaado iyagaba asaagoodu adligay sireedaan aaladay sameeyaan yaa garanaya ninkii saytiiska ah ee ingiriiska yaa garanaya ma garanaysaa aqoonta ugu badan ayay leeyihiin waa in loo arxamo weeye ilaahay ka yaabo rabbaa inagu eegaya waa in loo arxamo weeye aflagaada loo quudhin oona erey xun loo geysan waa in loo arxamo weeye taasaan kaga baxaynaa waxaan u samayn doonaa brogaraamo gaara oo wacyigelin ah oo aynu heese ka samayno ama geerareer ka samayno ninkan yaa cawsgurow sheeko qosaada ka sheekeynaya cawsgurow maan aqoon waxay baray niman reer gaalisaa oo dee sujuuya baan asxaabahay waxaan ku iniyo soomaalida kale way gabaydahay maxaa gaalisiya oo jeer iyo madheere looga waayo wax soo gabiya ama soo heesa dabeetna waxaan ku hees baan ka sameyey waxaan ku uli muxuu ah iyagaan dacaayadinay mogta raalina iga hada qalad hay fahmin dacaadda soo fura iyo kaftanka waxaan ku uri goday iyo jabuuti iyo hargeysa gooyaheed iyo muqdisho gaar ahaanteed boosaasi gabayday barcar gaarisay hees adigoon gudhuudhuka dhabaagadaadhaa sawaaxili gadiisi garaar ku soo darin barcar gaarisay hees geeraara soo tiri marka anigu waxaan uga jeedi muxuu ahaa meelihii gabayga geela ayay ahayn gaarisi iyo wajeeriyo dabeete markii waxa weyt awskura baa lay garaacay awskura waan leedahay baydahay annaga waxaan diidayey qof reer gaarisa oo gabiya awskura saan isku baranay waa kaasuu maqlayaa awskura bay garaacay saasaan isku baranay horta awskura sacabkaa loo tumo heesii way xumaadeen markay xumaadeen anna waan ka daba xumaado hees baan sameeyey iyaduna hees xun waxaan ku isoo lama soo heysay rabaan caynkaasi caynkana waxaan oranaya waan ku yidhi muxuu ahaa inan baan caashaqayo haddaad alaab dukaan taal ahaan adaan kaa iibsan laa baybi kaa iibsan laa baybi adaan kaa iibsan laa baybi kaa iibsan haddaad gaari ahaan lahayd adaan ku wadwadan lahaa baybi iska kaa wadwadan lahaa baybi adaan ku wadwadan lahaa baybi haddaad qaato malqacad ahaan lahayd bariis baan kugu cuni lahaa baybi weliba kugu boobi lahaa baybi bariis baan kugu haddaad barafuun cadar ahaan adaan kugu boofsan lahaa baybi dadkana kugu boofin lahaa baybi adaan haddaa meerkaas noqon leh adaan ku barbarsan lahaa baybi dadkana kugu marmarin lahaa salaamu calaykum
geli doonaa muuqaalada waa noo soo socdaan runtii gabagabadiina waan joognaa laakiin cashada intaanan u gadagelin Dylan aan siiyo dhowr daqiiqo ayaan siinayaa Dylan welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Monique. Hi everybody, so yes, my name's Dylan Matheson Dodd and I'm an expert by experience when it comes to autism. Sorry, just needs to readjust myself real quick. Here we go. Anyway, so for those of you who may have seen me last year, I was a speaker at last year's Shine the Light as well. And just a little bit about me. So I was diagnosed when I was 11 with autism. That's what I was actually 10, but I found out when I was 11. And it was a very difficult journey for me because I was originally put into foster care. I was then adopted. And at the age of 9, I ended up going back into foster care and then moving in with my adopted aunt and uncle. Now, of course, one of the things you'll have heard many times tonight is that if you meet one person with autism, you've only ever met one person with autism. We're all affected in very different ways. And I'll just tell you a bit about how I'm affected. So, for example, I really struggle with sayings. You know, like some people might say, pull your socks up. And you guys all here will know exactly what that means. But for a long time, I didn't. Now, I've actually been able to learn how to understand these phrases by looking at their origins. So if you know the phrase break a leg. Now yes, that doesn't mean break someone's leg. What it means is back in the days of Elizabethan theatre, in the days of Shakespeare, instead of clapping to applaud, people used to stamp their chairs. So if the chair legs broke, you know it was a good performance. So now knowing that saying makes a lot of sense. But how does, they get along like a house on fire? How is that positive? Other kind of ways I'm affected is sarcasm. I do struggle. And a great one that I realised actually growing up, I think was one of the first times I realised I struggled, was body language. So I mean, I'm able to try and move my arms around now and have an idea of what I'm trying to convey, but 11-year-old me wouldn't have a clue. And I think the first time I really acknowledged that I struggled with it would have been about 12 years old. It was during the general election. And I noticed David Cameron, whenever he did a speech, he always raised his hand like this. He did it 3 or 4 times, a clenched hand, thumb on the top. And I didn't know what it meant. Now, I've been asking people for years if they understand what that signal is. Now, thankfully, I'm not alone. No one seems to know what that means. But it was quite helpful to know that was kind of the beginning step to understand where I was starting to struggle in communications. A big one is routine. So I normally have like a day-to-day routine. I'll get up at a certain time, I'll have a certain thing for breakfast. If I'm going to work, I'll take a specific route. And thankfully, I've also made sure there are backups because I used to be so bad that If you change my routine even once, that could easily be a meltdown. So when I use meltdown, I use what's called a 1 to 5 scale. So 1 is like all down here, nice, calm, collected. I'd like to think we're all number 1s right now. And then the more stressed you get, it's like 3 might be if you're going in for an exam, you're really getting agitated, especially if you're like me and you forget your name during a mock. And then 4 is when you need to get out of there. 5 is meltdown, punches being thrown, chairs being thrown, that kind of thing. You know you've lost control. And for some people I've worked with, like it could just be having the wrong cereal that can lead to a whole day being ruined. As for me, not so much that, but if I had something in place and you took it away, I would struggle more than if I didn't have anything in and then you gave me something to do. Now, when it comes to my story, the reason I've started doing these talks is actually because I found out a while back that I actually had been diagnosed with autism around the age of 6. And for some reason, and I still don't know the full details to this day, that diagnosis got hidden. It got tucked under a rug, and I was deprived of support moving forward. So schools didn't know about it. I was given no support moving forward. And when I was in year 6, which is apparently when I was back in foster care, and I was going for the second diagnosis, my primary school way of dealing with me was asking me not to be there when Ofsted turned up. Now that's only 15 years ago. And 15 years ago, the biggest autism charity in the world was a charity that actually could be seen as a hate group. The understanding of autism was so negative. So just think, in 15 years, how far we've come from those days. And since moving in with my aunt and uncle, learning about my autism, actually it was a relief for me. Because I could never understand why I was so angry growing up. I didn't know if it was to do with the way my home life was, the way my family life was, the way that in my head I almost didn't understand those terms for a while. Like they felt alien to me. I thought that might have been the source of all my anger, but actually, once I started having lessons and learning about the way my autism affects me, many more things started to click into place. And along that, I could then start actually building coping strategies. So as I mentioned to you guys, the 1 to 5, that's quite handy. But one of the things I noticed where it could easily go wrong is that we were told that if I was ever going to get stressed and needed to leave the room, I was to put my hand up and show the number of fingers, so that way the teacher could see it. And I didn't like that, because as someone who got bullied quite frequently and was baited into having meltdowns and lashing out, you still know you're giving them a reaction by putting that hand up. So I tried to change it a bit. Instead, I put my hand up to get the teacher to come to me, and then I would ask if I could go to the toilet, but then press 3 or 4 fingers down on the table. So that way no one else in the room can see what's going on. For all they need to know, I'm going to the toilet. But the teacher, and possibly the support teacher there in the room, will know that I am close, and that's why I'm going. And actually that was a system I helped introduce for other people in college, because they realised it was effective because it was subtle. So also 15 years ago, you used to have these red cards, green cards. The whole point, they tried to make it really vocal, really public, which for someone that was in mainstream school, that actually wasn't a possibility, because, again, when you have people trying to bait you into those meltdowns, you're just showing them you're still being affected by it. Another way I was affected is facial expressions. So thankfully, I'd like to think I can read most people's faces now, but for a long time, I could do basic expressions like happy, sad, and that, but beyond that, I kind of struggled. And the way that my aunt taught me how to cope with that was, I thought it was ingenious. Now, I was a big fan of the show Midsummer Murders as a kid. And I always liked to see if I got the right person in the end. But what my aunt would do is, in the middle of watching an episode, she'd pause it. And I was not allowed to carry on watching until I could correctly guess that facial expression. And now, don't get me wrong, it was very aggravating, but it makes one incredible motivator. And these steps in learning about myself actually started to help me bring my temper down. I stopped having so many meltdowns. I stopped being kicked out of school so frequently. And by the time I left my high school in year 9, I stopped having meltdowns altogether. When I moved to do schools afterwards, they never saw me have a meltdown even once, because I finally had strategies put into place. But unfortunately, that's just this part of that school. And going to the adult world, there's a whole new wave of stigma that comes into place, particularly when it comes to employability. Now, I started doing these talks when I was 15 years old. It was a parent workshop in Leicestershire, and I'd originally asked the Autism Outreach what I could do to give back because of all the help they put in for me. And they told me that they had a workshop, they needed someone to come in, and I was like, yes, absolutely, I would love to. And I turned up, these two speakers were in their late 20s, had fantastic cue cards, like some presentations ready. I did have some cue cards, but because of how good their presentations were, I kind of panicked, chucked my cue cards on the floor and just started talking. I found that since works for me, so I don't do cue cards anymore. But because of those talks being the first time I ever did anything like that, I always put them on my CV. So on my CV, my autism is very blatant. However, because of that, there's a big stigma, especially in the UK, for autism employability. And one time, when I applied for a retail job, and it was there, I got asked by the owner, how do you solve the problem that is autism? This is for a shop job, right, in a village. Now, I burst out laughing, said, all right, here's how, don't see it as a problem. Here's what you can do to work with it. Here's how I can help you with your rota, make sure people are on time, so no one's being messed around. Don't mess me around, we'll get on great. One time they did, it didn't go well, they learnt from it. But I'm very lucky that I have the voice and the ability to be able to use that voice to try and change things. I love doing it for the last 10 years, and I'm going to carry on doing it. But one thing I want to leave with is this. Of course, for those of you who've noticed, a lot of people, it's been Autism Awareness Week or month, and other people say Autism Acceptance Month, and some people even say Autism Appreciation Month. Now, just because they're all correct, just because right now we might say autism acceptance, because everyone here knows about autism, now it's the strives to make it acceptable in society. But just because I've been able to be fortunate in that journey, doesn't mean I've ever forgotten that there are parts of the world that still need to make that leap to awareness. So we're lucky that we can be on that second run, and to go to the third, to empowerment. But don't forget why we're here. Don't forget why Hashim started daryeel. It's because there are so many places out there in the world that still need to conquer that first run.
Thank you, Daryeel. Okay. haddii aan isku dayo waxa yar inaan soo koobo waran haddii la yiraahdo waxa la soo dhaweynayaa xildhibaan ama wasiir ama madaxweyne howlkan oo buuxi lahaa laakiin waxaad moodaa inaan ka gambanayno ama aan danteena iyo waxyaalaha muhiimka inoo ah aysan muhiim inoo ahayn marka taana laga fakaro inay muhiim tahay arrintan oo kale waa arrintu ka hadlaya cabdi cumar oo ah yani sadaqada inaad halkan timaado waa sadaqo lacagta aad bixisaa waa sadaqo waqtiga aad bixisaa waa sadaqo sababta waxaan ka qayb qaadanaynaa waxay tahay oo halkan u nimi in aynu iswacyi gelino weligii xaflad ma xiriirin aan tan ka ahayn sababtaan haashimna uga aqbalay waxay tahay inaan gacanna ku siiyo kuna taageero intaan in ka badan aan u sameeyo sababta maxay tahay waa wacyigelin waajibna saaran marka qof kastana mas'uuliyad baa naga saaran aynu xoogga saarna marka qof kasta shan qof aan soo wado wixii lagu bixin karo waxay tar u noqonaysaa dhiirigelin u noqonaysaa walaalaheen barnaamijkan soo diyaariyey soona qabanqaabeeyey marka aad iyo aad baad u mahadsantihiin waayahay waxaan rabaa markaan inaan fursad siiyo oo weliba arrin muhiim ah Adam Sergeant, I would like to give him the stage. Adam, welcome.
Thank you. Right, just a quick thing before I start. I just want to say that everything I say tonight is my personal view and doesn't reflect the rail industry. Just make that aware. Okay, so about me. So I'm Adam Sargent. I'm on the autism spectrum. I was diagnosed when I was aged 3, and going from there to here today, life used to be very different. So, yeah, when I was 3, I wasn't speaking. I didn't say my first word till I was 4. And I got the autism diagnosis. I actually remember going through it, being in this little school in Beaumont Leys, which is a district in Leicester. And it was the obsession of chalk ices that we always used to have that kind of led to it, which is really bizarre. And then I had other weird interests, like in the late 1990s, so pylons. I used to watch loads of videos. I used to go and see them in all over Leicestershire. And then I had this thing about buses, trains, which I'll come up to in a bit. So yeah, non-speaking when I was 4, I used to have to use Makaton to help me communicate. And you know, being in a special needs school was, yeah, you know, it felt comforting, to be honest, you know, at that time. But you know, one of the things that I really don't like about what I am is unexpected changes. So, you know, life was hard back in the olden days, being in primary school. And I remember when we used to have fire drills. Like, how would you handle a fire? Like, you know, how would a young child handle a fire drill? Normally you get up and then you walk to the exit. With me, I had to run like it was World War III, screaming. And it's like, for me, from being calm to having a meltdown, it takes like 5 seconds. So, yeah, and I've had that for a good 6 years, and then I had to go to big school, as they call it. So they had to get me used to, like, you know, fire alarm sounds because they have school bells. And the same applied with whistles. I mean, I used to get upset even if I see a teacher about to use one, and I always used to have to look at the staff room and see if the whistle is on the hook, because if it is, that means I can stay calm. But yeah, I've also suffered with, like, you know, not being able to eat loads of meals. That's why often I turn food down. Sorry about that. And yeah, going into big school, I still, you know, struggle to make friends from time to time. But, you know, I prevailed, and I remember doing my own thing and used to getting higher grades than other people, which was a good start. I remember when I was 16, I was heavily depressed. Went to college and it kind of didn't really work out. So I decided to move to another place in Leicester, and I got distinctions for the next several years, which means something must be right. But yeah, it's about having the right support place and system. Got diagnosed with dyslexia when I was 21 as part of my university application, which, you know, helped me a lot. And the first year of uni was tough, almost failed, but I carried on. I focused on my strengths, and the strengths kept, you know, giving rewards. So I left university with a first-class honours degree, and I got a job offer at Network Rail. Several months before graduation, and the role that I had, well, we had 4 places. There were 414 applicants. So yeah, 1 in 103. Wow. Yeah. But you know, starting life at work was tough, and luckily it got better and better. And right now, but it's given me the opportunity to join a group of like neurodivergent people at YRP, where at the moment I'm now in charge of EDI, so Equality, Diversity and Inclusion, and I have under my leadership 1,800 neurodivergent people across the UK. So it's a big responsibility. But yeah, we've done quite a lot. So we've done the Santa Express, which was on the BBC and ITV last year up in Leicester. We're doing an Autism awareness video we did recently, which we had an unemployed participant, and a good mate of mine watched it and offered him a job just for taking part in that video. Although I don't know whether he's accepted yet, but if it is, it's going to be in London. But yeah, I've also been helping out. Has anyone here been to the Livid Experience Network back in February over over near London Bridge? Okay, so a new autism group and learning difficulty group has been set up for Transport for London in partnership with Building People First. So EBEs have now got the opportunity to work directly with TfL, and we've got our next session in June in North Greenwich, which will focus on technology in buses, in which a lot of it I've kind of given them the ideas for. So I get to work with networked with ministers, Secretary of States. In fact, I actually saw the Secretary of State for Science, Trade, Technology and something last week. And in the rail industry, we're doing quite a lot at the moment. We're now starting to roll out autism packs. So if you live in the southwest of England, or you live like in the East Midlands, then you may be able to pick one up. We're also working on greater awareness. So this is a jam card. So with the jam card, you can inform someone that you got on the spectrum if you are struggling. And then we're also helping people out. So please offer a seat. So again, anyone on TfL network can request one of these. We also have a support assisting cards, that are going out. And thanks to NADEX, which is a major conference which did a lot of autism stuff last month in Birmingham, with National Highways, which look after the motorway network, now have a sunflower lanyard scheme in which you can put the sunflower on the back of your car, so if you break down. The haters will know straight away that you need special assistance. What else? There's so much to talk about. Oh yes, we've got 2 new groups that are currently being set up, in which we've got the Rail Industry Neuro Inclusion Network, which has been set up in Birmingham. So it's a committee of people that are going to be overseeing neurodiversity within rail. And then we've got the second group, which I'm currently working on, which is a Centre of Excellence for Neurodivergent People, in which it'll be for the rail industry. And I've set it up based on how the Leicestershire and Autism Partnership Board have set their group up many years ago. So, it's time to build on that success, and, it's going to be on a national level. 220 companies in total will be part of this neuro inclusion network potentially. So I think we've done more for autism this year alone than what we've done in the previous 199 years, because it's the 200th birthday next year. So, I think that's everything. There's so much more to say, but I'd like, has anyone got any questions?
Question closed because we were late.
Okay. Well, come and see me if you want to sign up for any of the stuff we've got. Thank you.
The cameras, if you can put it straight. So, I would be your help.
So, we gave everyone on the tables here a small quiz, basically looking at a few famous people and seeing if they knew what conditions they've been diagnosed with. So, of course, I know myself and maybe Adam may say, when I was diagnosed with autism, one of the things that we got told about was many famous people with autism, such like Albert Einstein. So we thought we'd give a test to see how many you guys got. Now, the first one that you'll see is Emma Watson. Did anyone get this? Now, I actually didn't know this one. Emma Watson has ADHD. The second one is Billie Eilish. Did the song Bad Guy very well. I know she's done knows what song since, but it's the only one that I know, sorry. Now, I did know this one. Did anyone get this one? Tourette's is correct. The third one is Cara Delevingne. I believe she's an actress and model. Okay. I just about know who she is. But she has dyspraxia and ADHD. The fourth one, of course, sadly no longer with us, was the late, great Robin Williams. And he had bipolar and ADHD. Now, fifth was Marilyn Monroe. Very famous actress into the early days of, well, not the early days, the 50s, 60s. And she had, can anyone get this one? Stutters and borderline personality disorder is correct. 6th is share. Anyone get shares? No, it's dysgraphia and dyslexia. So dysgraphia is where you struggle to get your thoughts into written words. You have great difficulty doing so. It does. A lot of people in the autistic spectrum do need help, extra time for this reason. They struggle to get their thoughts onto paper. 7 is Keira Knightley, famous for Pirates of the Caribbean, even though she was actually in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace first. And then she is dyslexic. 8, Yosemite Sam. I'm going to be honest, I had no idea who this was. I thought they were trying to write out Yosemite Sam before I realised that's the cowboy from the Looney Tunes. Or Bugs Bunny, yeah. And Yosemite Sam has, there's number 8, hyperlexia. Now, 9 is, you're going to have to choose number 9. Is that Jennifer Aniston? Jennifer Aniston is also dyslexic, apparently. Yes. Number 10, let's have a quick look at it. Oh yes, Sir Anthony Hopkins, very famous actor, Hannibal Lecter, Odin in the MCU, for those of you who may not have seen 90s movies. Now he is autistic. 11, Henry Winkler. Okay, this one might take you a while back. He was the Fonz. If anyone know who the Fonz is. He's had a few roles in other American sitcoms since, like Parks and Rec and that. Now, I didn't know this one. He has dyscalculia and dyslexia. 12, Jim Carrey. Eggman in the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, The Mask in The Mask, Ace Ventura, etc., etc. And he was has ADHD and several mental health conditions. 13, David Beckham. I'm pretty sure we all know who he is. I did know this one. Yes, he's OCD. And last, Elton John. If you don't know who this is, there's the door. And he has epilepsy and experiences seizures. Well done for all of you for getting as many right as you did. I only got 4 when I first did it, so if you beat 4, you did very well.
Assalamu alaikum, my dear brothers and sisters tonight. I want to remind you of the importance of charity in Islam. It is one of the 5 pillars of Islam and an essential part of our faith that teaches us to be compassionate, empathetic, and generous. Charity in Islam goes beyond just giving money to those in need. It is about creating a sense of community and shared responsibility. It is about looking out for our fellow human beings and helping them in times of need. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "The believer's shade on the day of resurrection will be his charity." This hadith emphasizes the importance of charity in Islam and how it will benefit us not only in this life, but also in the hereafter. Charity is not limited to giving money. It can also include acts of kindness, helping someone in need, or simply being there for someone who is struggling. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Your smile for your brother is charity." In Islam, we are taught to be generous and to give freely to those in need. By giving to others, we are sharing the blessings that have been bestowed upon us by Allah. We are also purifying our wealth and increasing our own blessings in return. Let us remember the importance of charity in Islam and strive to be charitable in all aspects of our lives. Let us be kind, generous, and compassionate towards others, for it is the true essence of Islam. May Allah guide us all on the path of righteousness and bless us with the means to give charity to those in need. Charity will even help you when you die. I ask Allah to accept our charity. Assalamu alaikum.